Do you know that God is writing your story? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have some incredible guests with me. We have acclaimed author Tamara Battaglia, and she's here with her husband, broadcast media executive Joe Battaglia, and they are going to share how to look for the Lord in the everyday moments of your life. Welcome, Tamara and Joe. I'm so excited to have you on Flourish-Meant today.
Thank you.
Tina.
Thanks, Tina. We're
Thanks
glad
for
to be
having
here.
us.
Yep, love it.
Let's dive right into the inspiration for this book, Tamara. You met your husband under extraordinary circumstances that really shouldn't have happened otherwise. If it wasn't a God story, it would never have occurred. Can you talk about this amazing God story of your own?
Well, I got married at 20, and I was married 24 years. Then I had an unwanted divorce. My girls were in college, so I was an empty nester, and I was single for 17 years. I became a flight attendant during those years and never really planned on getting married again. I was not looking for love, just was enjoying spending time with the Lord and getting to know Jesus better. And my relationship with him really flourished in that time when I was single. It was a wonderful time spending with the Lord. He met every need. I just got to see his character in many, many different ways in my life. And one day,
I was producing an event here in Nashville for Kathy Lee Gifford, who's a dear, dear friend. And Tammy is a big fan of hers. And so
I got a ticket to go to this event. It was at the Ryman. Bought the ticket. I was looking up online who was singing. And this other ticket or this other event popped up online for the night before, and it was a dinner. And I bought a ticket for that. And immediately they called me and asked me how I got this ticket. And I said, I really don't have any idea. I was online wanting to know more about the event. And I got a ticket to that event. I didn't know I was not supposed to be there. It was an event for
the board of this
board.
particular organization that was sponsoring the event at the Ryman the night after. So this was just for an in-house thing that Kathy was going to be at as well. And so that was the first providential thing. So that was not supposed to be for sale to people other than those on the board. But somehow she got a ticket, got opened up a little doorway into the internet for her to find that ticket.
I had someone going with me. They were unable to go with me, and I invited my sister. My sister was standing in line at the event, and she met Joe.
Me. Now, I'm online because when I brought Kathy to the event, we were ushered into the back stage door, and the person in charge of that event brought her in and shut the door in my face. And so I said, well, all right, I'll just go stand in line like everybody else. So I was not supposed to be in that line that evening, which is where I met her sister, and then she came over. So that was number 2. So anyway, the event is over, right, at the end of the evening, and we all leave. I'm walking out to go back to my car, and Tammy and her sister are standing by the curb, and I go up to them and say, may I take you back to your hotel? My car's right here. And she says,
We were waiting for an Uber. We had 1 minute for the Uber to come. And so I politely said no, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to disappoint the Uber driver showing up and then not being able to have a ride. So,
and so I said again, may I take you? Cancel the Uber. It's okay. They'll understand. And you said,
no.
So not to be outdone, being a Jersey guy, I reach over her right shoulder and cancel the Uber on her iPhone. And you thought,
That's a bold move.
Yes. Let me just stop you right there because I feel like we need to do a disclaimer of don't try this at home to all the young men who think this is a great pickup strategy. This should not have worked either. So what were you thinking, Tamara, when this happened? Had you at least had some conversation with him in line and gotten to know him at all before he cancels your Uber on your phone?
Well, we had met in line, but no. But I knew that he knew Kathy, and so I felt like he was a good guy. It was just a little forward of him to be canceling my Uber.
Now, I'm not normally that forward. And I agree, that is forward. So, yes, don't anybody try that unless the Holy Spirit has directed you, as I always like to say. I'll put it there. So I drive them home to the hotel, and we talk a little bit in the car, and then afterward.
And then the next night God gave us another opportunity to meet at the Ryman, and I had an extra ticket. And I didn't know that he knew most of the people in the place. And I said, I have an extra ticket. Would you like to sit with us? And he said, sure.
Well, she stalked me. And I was in the row in back of her. And then when she turned around and we started talking, and that's when she invited me to sit next to her. We have to be very clear here. I didn't push any buttons. So, of course, I said yes. Who wouldn't? And so we sat next to each other and got to know each other a little better. And then after
the event, he said, if you're ever in Jersey, call me and I'd love to take you to dinner. And I said, well, I never go to Jersey and I appreciate the offer. And then for the next couple of weeks, he flew quite a bit. And he would text me and ask me, what are we having for dinner? Are you going to be on this plane? And just silly conversation. And then I was praying one day about my schedule. And I just blurted out, well, God, if you want me to meet Joe again, give me a layover in Newark. And I woke up the next morning and I had a layover that night in Newark.
And you haven't had one?
No,
in
for
Newark,
years, for like 4 or 5 years.
Of course, everybody tries to avoid Newark.
Yes.
You have lots of humor in your story. Talk about that a little bit. What you think is just God showing through as his sense of humor as an author of your story. Did you see more of that as you went along?
Well, the timing on all this speaks to us, right? I mean, canceling her Uber, meeting in line that I wasn't supposed to be on, her getting a ticket. There are so many of these things that line up in the sights of God's plan where they are unmistakable. So you kind of, just chuckle at when they begin to happen. So the timing of her having a layover that very night in Newark, when she hasn't had one in years, after she prayed that a few hours previously, very unusual. But you begin to see something. So you call me or let me know that you're going to have a layover in Newark, and then what?
It was snowing, and he wasn't able to leave his house. He asked me if he could call me, and I said, sure. He calls me, and we had probably about a 5 or 10 minute phone call. It was just a very brief phone call. He asked me if I'd ever marry again, and I said no.
I don't know why I asked her that.
It was one of the first questions he asked, and I thought, no. Jesus is my husband. where he takes care of the widows and the orphans, my name is right there. But he said, well, if you ever want to talk about men, call me. And I thought, well, that is a very odd thing, but okay. So fast forward another couple of weeks, I'm moving. I'm going through boxes and memories, and I was just kind of overwhelmed. And I remembered what he said. And I thought, I'm just going to write him an email and tell him my story. And I did. And he said, well, can I call you tonight? And I said, sure. That conversation was one that you could just feel the Holy Spirit in. And it was just like two old friends talking. And he shared with me about his journey in life. And I told him about my journey. And at the end of it, he prayed for me, prayed this beautiful blessing over my life. I hung up the phone and I started writing out the blessing. I was trying to remember all of it. I go to bed, I wake up in the morning, and he has emailed me the blessing and said, I just, wanted to share this with you again, that you need to hear this. You're loved, you're forgiven, everywhere you go is holy ground. And it was just a beautiful blessing. And I knew Jesus wanted me to hear that blessing. And so that was another providential moment that he had written me this email. And we decided to meet, and he was going to LA, and I happened to be in LA that week. And I don't normally go to LA either.
Yeah, the exact same days I was there.
Yeah.
And so we met again. And then the story continues. I mean, it's really one thing after another of God intersecting us without us planning that. Very unusual circumstances. My story was that my wife had passed away by that time 2 years previously, after 37 years of marriage. And so I wasn't looking either. It was just fun playing this out, because at the beginning, there's no expectations of anything. It's just kind of fun to see what God's doing. And because of that, you want to continue to see, well, where's this playing out? So you want to be open, but you don't want to take for granted that, oh, there's something here. That's kind of the short version of what happened on the initial side of how we met, how we determined that that was something probably God was putting together. But there's a lot more to that story. So that would take too long.
You both were very aware of the Holy Spirit's leading this whole time, and that was key, because you could have missed any of these opportunities if you hadn't been aware of that. And I believe that must have been part of why you wrote this beautiful new book, Tamara, that includes so many similar stories of being aware of God and his movement in your life. Can you talk about your new book and where people can find it?
Well, this is it. You can put it in your purse and carry it around. It's very convenient. It is a book written by 40 different women authors, all women of faith. And the uniqueness about this book is these women are very honest about their life journeys, and the things in your life you will recognize in this book. There's just many things in this book that represents each and every one of us. Each one has a Bible verse that pertains to the story. It has a mission statement, and each author wrote their stories and their prayers. And then it has a little bio on each one. Look up each one of the authors and get to know them. All of them are authors. Many of them have written many, many books. They're just phenomenal ministries for the Lord, doing great things for the Lord.
I'd say the unique thing about this particular devotional, Written in Heaven, is the type of stories. I mean, this isn't a typical devotional that has, 2 sentences of a verse and what it means, and then a prayer and so forth. Each story is about 800 words, and it represents a time in each person's life where they knew God was working in their life. And it covers the gamut of all life experiences that a woman, or anyone for that matter, might face. And so they'll recognize many of the people who are in the book: Priscilla Shirer, Karen Kingsbury, Sheila Walsh, Jen Lilly,
Lisa
Robertson. I mean, it's on and on and on. And these are all friends through the years that I've just made, and we're all able to then communicate to each other fairly easily. We were just so happy with the number of people that participated in this. So I think it's that unique of a book. I think people will find it really intriguing, inspirational.
I hope that all of you listening were inspired to look more deeply into the moments of your life to see how God is writing your story in heaven. And I hope that you will also take advantage of this opportunity to get this beautiful devotional book by Tamara Battaglia. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.